Are we still sisters?
Nothing is ever going to change that.
Sibling dynamics are so unique to everyone. They can be our first companions, our partners in mischief, and sometimes our fiercest rivals. I also want to say this video doesn't just apply to anyone with a biological brother or sister, as I don't believe you have to be biologically related under the same parents to call someone you cherish a brother or a sister. Whether that is a close cousin or a close friend that you call brother or sister, this video can also apply to you. I'm sure you've seen many movies and TV shows or played games that portray sibling relationships, each exploring different facets of this dynamic. In the early seasons of The Simpsons, we see the classic rivalry between Bart and Lisa. Despite all the bickering and fighting, there's an underlying love and care that binds them together, even when they don't always show it. Then there's Malcolm in the Middle, a show that portrays how loud, messy, and chaotic family life and sibling dynamics are. There are endless conflicts, pranks, and sibling fights, but through it all, there's also joy, laughter, and those unexpected moments of connection that only siblings can have. And who could forget Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? The four brothers each have their own unique personalities and ways of approaching life, but no matter what conflicts arise between them, they always have each other's backs. Through their individual differences, they show us the deep bond that comes from shared experiences and growing up together, even when things aren't always perfect. Some forms of media capture sibling experiences, their rivalries, mischief, and shared moments of joy. What Arcane does so well is show a reality across all sibling relationships. Change. What happens to our relationships when we change, when we go through life, when we grow up? Arcane explores the reality that we aren't the same person we were as a child, that siblings change. Jinx and Vi share a deeply tragic story as siblings. At the start of Arcane, we meet them as young children on a battlefield of destruction, surrounded by death and chaos. Lost and distraught, they discover their parents are dead, victims of the violence. They are taken in by Vander, a mysterious yet kind-hearted figure who becomes their father-like protector. As the story unfolds, we see the sisters attempting a heist, a job that pushes the younger sibling, Powder, to prove herself. The dynamic becomes clear. Vi is the leader, a fighter who can hold her own and use her physical skills to defend others. Powder, still just a child, struggles to keep up. She yearns to be part of the group in a reliable way. Though she lacks physical strength, she compensates with her creativity, skill in building gadgets, and sharp aim with a gun. The sisters are opposites, each with strengths that contrast the others. Both are forced to navigate the harsh realities of the Undercity, a world riddled with corruption, violence, and poverty. Vi harbors deep resentment towards Piltover and the Enforcers, channeling her anger into a desire to fight back. She is hot-headed, impulsive, driven by her emotions, but looks out for her family. Powder, on the other hand, clings to her sister for comfort and guidance. She is too young to do what the others can and feels the weight of Milo's constant criticism, which leaves her feeling like a failure. She is desperate to prove herself worthy and a reliable member of the group to feel like she belongs. Vi recognizes this and is fiercely protective of Powder, standing up for her when others try to bring her down. Their bond is undeniable. They mean the most to each other. Unfortunately, it was their failed heist that sets everything in motion. Powder accidentally triggering a devastating explosion caught the attention of Piltover's council and the Enforcers, but also sets off a chain of events that will change their lives forever. As the chaos unfolds, Vi decides to leave Powder behind during the mission to rescue Vander, knowing the danger ahead. Her choice comes from a place of care and good judgment. She wants to protect Powder from the fight she knows her sister isn't ready for. But Powder, being a child, is so overwhelmed with emotion, she chooses not to stay behind. Powder wants to use this situation to prove herself, to show that she's reliable and not a burden. She craves validation, to no longer feel like someone the group has to carry. So, in a last-ditch effort to help, as the team attempts to escape with Vander, Powder unleashes her weapon. The result is catastrophic. At first she believes she saved them, only to later confront Vi and realize the horrifying truth. She has killed Vander, Milo, and Clagger.
Vi, it worked! What? Did you see me? My monkey bomb finally worked!
You did this?
This moment sets the stage for the entire series. Both sisters are thrust into a storm of emotions and pain, each facing their own personal hell. Vi is consumed by a whirlwind of rage, grief, and despair. She's furious at Powder for disobeying her orders and causing such unimaginable devastation. The loss of her friends and father figure, all because of her own sister, is unbearable. Yet, at the same time, Vi is torn. She knows Powder is still just a child, naive, well-intentioned, but reckless. The weight of losing so much at the hands of the person she cares for most leaves Vi utterly shattered. For Powder, she can't process what has happened. It's too much. Her good intentions, driven by a desperate desire to help, have resulted in the worst possible outcome. Overwhelmed with guilt, fear, confusion, and sorrow, she breaks down completely. When Vi lashes out in anger, hitting her and walking away, Powder is left utterly broken, crying out for her sister. This scene is one of the most heartbreaking moments in the show. How do you come back from something like this? Powder's mistake hasn't just cost them their family, it's destabilized the entire power structure of the Undercity. What makes this scene so powerful is how raw and authentic it feels. It doesn't shy away from showing the messy, painful reality of trauma and how it can fracture even the strongest bonds. And that's what we see years later in the show. The sisters have grown up. They have changed.
Vi?
Powder has transformed into Jinx, a new identity forged to cope with her trauma. She clings to Silco, the only figure who didn't abandon her, because for a child, abandonment feels like death, especially when they cannot meet their own survival needs. Silco becomes her new father figure, the sole person Jinx feels close to during this time. Tragically, her trauma shapes her in ways that lead to dissociation, schizophrenia, and severe anxiety. These struggles have made her dangerous, feared by others who see her as unhinged. Jinx is aware of this perception and she leans into it, using it as armor. Beneath the chaos, though, she carries overwhelming guilt and self-loathing, believing she's a bad person. Vi, meanwhile, endures her own isolation in prison. Her way of coping is through fighting, channeling her anger, pain, and grief into physical confrontations. She often finds herself battered and bruised, but it's the only outlet for her loneliness and frustration. When the sisters learn the other is alive, their sibling bond reignites, despite the years of separation and pain. Both desperately want to see each other, and their eventual reunion is utterly heartbreaking. Jinx discovers that Vi tried to come back for her, and in that vulnerable moment, she begins to open up. After everything she's endured, seeing the one person who meant the most to her is overwhelming. Both sisters recognize they've changed and acknowledge they had to do what they could to survive. However, Vi struggles to fully comprehend what Powder has endured to become Jinx. When Caitlyn arrives, Vi begins to see the extent of Powder's dissociation and mental instability. Jinx hates being called Powder, especially in moments where she feels threatened, because Powder is tied to the image of someone weak, helpless, and ridiculed. Jinx is the persona that enabled Powder to survive, a shield to push others away and avoid being hurt again.
Do you hear that?
At the end of the season, Jinx talks about this reality. She asks her older sister, "Who am I? What do you see me as? Jinx or Powder?" In essence, a mentally unstable individual, or a child who can't do anything. In this scene, Vi realizes she has to stop projecting the image of Powder, the little sister she once knew, onto Jinx. She is not the same. She has drastically changed. Jinx believes that choosing one will negate the other, but this is not true. In fact, she is both parts. She is Powder and Jinx. Jinx is the survival mechanism that Powder created, while Powder is the inner child who holds her innocence. Change happens to all of us, but our inner child remains a part of who we are. We're never exactly the same as we were in childhood. Life's experiences, especially trauma and pain, shape us. We can't hold on to who our siblings were. Arcane masterfully portrays how each sibling experiences life differently. We can see this in our own lives. They are impacted by culture differently. They have their own perspectives on their childhood and parents, and experience their own memories. Their pain and joy can be similar, and different to ours. In Season 2, there is recognition of this change and more acceptance between Vi and Jinx. Vi has stopped trying to change her sister. At the same time, Jinx is risking her vulnerability to reconnect with her sister because Vander is back and needs help. The line she speaks of, "Besides, he's your father too," hits Vi, making her aware that deep down, Jinx still holds love for her and sees her as family. When they can help Vander, they are able to remember their childhood and the connection they shared, one of love, innocence, and softness. Vi also treats her sister differently, no longer as a child who is naive, but as a person who has evolved and been through so much, who needs love. For instance, she asks for Jinx's opinion, to which Jinx is taken aback because for the first time, she's included by someone. Her voice matters. She's seen as important, and this means even more when it's her older sister that was the person closest to her growing up. Their relationship begins to heal. They begin to form a bond again. No matter what, there is a uniqueness to the bond between siblings that remains even as adults. Maybe it's a shared joke or a small moment of fun that calls back to childhood. Siblings grow up together, and no matter how much life changes them, the commonality of childhood remains in each of us. The reality in the world is, sibling relationships vary. For some people, they can be super close, but for others, change has caused incompatibility in their relationships. The most important thing is we accept each other for who we are, and regardless of the dynamic shared, there will always be that part of us who holds the truth that yes, we were once companions, partners in mischief, and above all, still hold love for each other in our hearts. If you watched the entire video and enjoyed it, seriously, thank you so much. Feel free to hit that like button and subscribe, as it would mean the world to me, and I have so much more content for you guys in the future. Peace out.